I'm Jason Klom, and this is Comedy on Vinyl. Okay, I'll do a little intro, and I don't know what the intro will be. I apologize. I've never been so nervous and so... holy cow. Okay, let me make sure. Yep, okay, there's my notes. All right. Hi, everybody. My guest is Weird Al Yankovic. Hi, Weird Al Yankovic.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. I don't know what we're doing here. You can go anytime. It's fine. You know what, though? Okay, here's the thing. So this background is the New York Times Magazine shoot from last year that got bumped away from the cover because COVID is selfish. Could have been the cover. You were very kind there.
A little tasteless in the middle of a pandemic to have like hundreds of people grouped together in Weird Al wigs to boot.
Good God, can you imagine if that had been the first super spreader? Oh God, let's not talk about that. Never mind. Let's talk. In the article that this is attached to, this is something I did not know about you until I read the article. You transcribed George Carlin's FM and AM album. Is that correct? Or AM
yeah,
FM?
I was however old I was. I mean, that album came out in like, 73 or something ish.
Yeah.
So I was in my early teens. And I don't know. I was a little, OCD maybe back then. I still am, of course. But back then it was like, they didn't have any like lyric sheets on albums for the most part, and especially not for comedy albums. And I that was like the only album that I had, and I just obsessively got out the little manual typewriter and transcribed every single word of it. And this was not a cassette tape or anything, so instead of hitting pause, I had to put the needle back on the record, and it may or may not be in the right place.
Oh my God! I mean, I've done this. I've done what you're talking about. I did the exact. That's why I was sort of shocked to find out. And it then confirmed, yes, we probably do have roughly the same OCD, which I think is part of, there's the common, everybody likes to ask you, Weird Al, you must have a dark side. Let's talk about your dark side. And you're like, not really. But I feel like, I'm a kind of person who doesn't feel like I have a dark side, but like all human beings, I have dark thoughts. Those then come through my art in as fun a way as possible. Is that the case? Is that what it is? Is it just you're a human being? You have dark thoughts and you expurgate them by being funny?
I suppose so. I mean, I don't think of myself as a dark person, but right. I mean, especially on the Vanity tour when I was doing all the original songs and kind of hearing myself singing these lyrics and going, this is dark stuff. Like, where did this come from? Like, so many of my songs go to a really, really dark place, and I don't think of myself as that way, but maybe that's just a way of me getting that out of my brain. I don't know.
I only ask because I know that there are a million different types of OCD, and we're not going to this is not a mental health podcast, but I've got a few of them.
Intervention? Are you?
Yes, I'm so sorry. I should have warned you, but that's not how an intervention works. It wouldn't work if I'd have warned you. But there are literally they're a part of some OCD that's just called intrusive thoughts. It's just a type of thing, and like you get obsessed with thoughts that you cannot control. And I feel like there's a lot of comics I've noticed. I'm sure if I ask them, I can tell that it is coming out they just have to express it. Otherwise it's going to come out in just blurts of swear words or vile things that they don't want to express otherwise.
Yeah, I don't, if I can use the phrase, I'm probably on the spectrum. Mm-hmm. I mean, to say that I have any kind of real problem, I think would maybe not be cool to people that do have those kind of mental health issues. So sure. I don't want to imply that I've got something that I don't. But certainly to some extent, I am obsessive, certainly about a lot of things in life, and particularly my work, and a lot of times that's helpful. When you're doing the kind of work that I do is to be that anal and detail oriented. It can get to the point where it's counterproductive and annoying to everybody else in your life. But hopefully I try to keep some boundaries so that it doesn't quite reach that level.
When I dig through the list of, like, the typical list of if anybody asks you who your influences are, they make sense to build up to sort of where you come in. But then at some point, very early in your career, verisimilitude becomes such a huge part of how you make your comedy work. And that's not like what Alan Sherman did. That's not what Stan Freberg did. I feel like your one thing was like, let's make this sound as much like the original as possible, but I'll throw in an accordion. That's my thing. at least early on. Is that part of the obsessive thing, to make it sound as much like the original as possible?
Nowadays, yeah, I mean, certainly for the first album or so, we weren't that concerned with it.
Sure.
Like, we'll get close, and once you have an accordion as the lead instrument, like all the other verisimilitude goes out the window because it's like obviously not going to sound like the original. But starting, yeah, probably around the second album, we thought, well, I mean, it probably would be more fun to have it sound as close to the original as possible and really suck people in. So like when they hear the opening notes on the radio, they think it's the original version, and then all of a sudden there's this weird guy singing different lyrics.
Why did you decide it was important to do the same with videos? I mean, it seems like an obvious question, but
Well, really for the same reason. I mean, and when you've got the visual element, you can throw in so many other pieces of comedy and visual jokes and things that you can't do with just an audio recording. And that's funny as well, to like see an image that you're familiar with and have it tweaked just a little bit, something just a little bit different. And that really, I think, adds to the humor.
Is Nature Trail to Hell a perfect song? That's just a note I wrote. It might be.
Well, thank you. That was the music, at least, was based on a song that I wrote when I was about 10 years old.
What?
It was an instrumental that I would play on my accordion when I was like 10 years old. And who was it? I think Johnny Carson said, you never waste anything. And by the time I was writing the second album, I was like, oh, let me pull this out of my bag of ideas, like this thing I wrote when I was 10. Wow. So particularly, I think like the whole instrumental break in Nature Trail to Hell, written when I was 10.
Wow. This I had no idea. Maybe I'm a terrible fan, but I had no idea. That's remarkable.
I don't talk about that a lot, so you're one of the few.
Oh, okay, good. Me and Johnny Carson. So let's. No, that's not the case. Now, should we talk a little bit about? So you said FM and AM is the only record you owned at the time. How long was that the case, or did you move on to other stuff?
Well, I honestly, I'm not sure if that came out before or after Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. Classical Gas was the first single that I ever bought when I was about 10 at Wallach's Music City. And then, FM and AM, I think, was maybe the first album purchased, and Goodbye Yellow Brick Road was the first like rock / pop album I ever purchased. Okay. So they were all, those were probably about the same time, like 73-ish.
Mm-hmm. Did you, what was in the house? Was the other stuff, the Alan Sherman and stuff, already in the house? Stuff your parents listened to?
Well, my folks didn't have a big record collection. Like they lived through the Great Depression, so they had this code where they weren't cheap, but they were extremely thrifty. And the whole thing with my mom in particular was, why do you want to go see a movie in a theater? It'll be on TV in 8 months. And it was the same thing with music. Like, why would you ever want to buy a record? Like, they play songs on the radio for free. And that was kind of the way they lived their life. And when they saw how important some of these things were to me, they relented and allowed me to, buy an album, which was like a big deal for them.
Mm-hmm. So did you hear the other stuff exclusively on Dr. Demento, or is it just around?
Mostly Dr. Demento. I mean, I was familiar with a lot of the artists that he'd played back then already, but certainly I was exposed to a whole world of things that I was just not familiar with at all. So that was, that really kind of opened the floodgates.
Were you there? Did you hear him roughly around the time he started on radio, or were you like a later convert?
Not a lot later. I think he actually started on KPPC in 1970, if I have my history right. I may not. And I don't think I ever listened to him back in those days. The first time I listened to him, he was already on KMET. So it wasn't like right when he started, but it was like maybe 2 years afterwards. So I was early, but not like, the very first. It wasn't like, hearing MTV on the opening seconds with the Buggles,
Right. Yeah, because this is a weird thing. So I grew up mostly in upstate New York and a bit in Europe. I didn't have comedy radio was never a thing. No Dr. Demento or anything. I don't even know how I heard you or saw you first. My parents brought home a tape, one of your tapes, must have been, I guess. And then later on, I rediscovered you when my best friend says, hey, not yet my best friend until he introduced me to this. And he says, hey, did you know he has an album? And I said, holy crap, he does more than just songs and videos. I really assumed you had done, just what I'd seen on MTV. And so we didn't have that exposure. Everybody else I talked to, I'm like, oh, did you listen to Dr. Demento? And if the case is yes, it's usually, yeah, I listened to that. Fish Heads, Weird Al, and then those are their points of reference. So what were the sort of, I mean, there's everything. I know he would play a million things, not exclusively comedy, but novelty, which we could get into later. But do you remember the first song or songs that you heard on his show? That was a long way to get to that question. I'm so sorry.
The very first songs? No, I mean, I remember some of the very first things I heard were a little off color. There was like Davy's Dinghy by Ruth Wallace and, Bounce Your Boobies and Baby Let Me Bang Your Box and a few things like that, which my mother heard me listening to, and she flipped out, and I was forbidden to listen to the Dr. Demento show. So at that point, it was like my secret little thing. Every Sunday night, I would go to bed early and pull the little AM/FM clock radio under the covers and have it right next to my ear, and I would listen to the Dr. Demento show in secret.
Oh my goodness, that is the most adorable little picture. Just oh, that's the funniest, and only in one ear, so you probably have hearing problems in it, I'm assuming by now. That's delightful. How long did you have to do that for before it was okay? You were old enough to be like, Mom, this is my thing.
Until I was about 35, and then she was cool with it.
You've made a little money, honey. Good. You're good. That's delightful. Holy cow. I was, speaking of Dr. Demento, this is not a thing I normally pick up. I've got a lot of records, but I have one of these, discs of a Dr. Demento episode.
Ooh.
This is from April 16th and 17th, 17th of 1988, in which he interviews you, because Even Worse had just come out, or was just about to come out. And I was going to look through it and see if there are any questions he asked you that I could sort of re-ask you now, this far down the line. Although,
see if I give you a word for word the exact same answer.
I know you won't, because you didn't answer one of them seriously, of course.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's not how you function. At least you didn't then. Maybe more people take you seriously now. That could be what it is.
I'm more into verisimilitude now.
Yeah, it's fair. It's fair. Oh, no, there was one. Okay, there was one you did answer seriously. At one point he said, oh, have you ever been tempted to write serious songs? And you said that you had been asked to write serious lyrics, but that was not something you were into. Do you recall what any of those instances were?
Back then, I was asked to write serious lyrics?
Supposedly, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't remember. I will say, we'll give you a more recent example, and this is something that I've never told anybody. It's like I become friends with Portugal the Man, and John Gorley was trying to write a serious song with me. He wanted me to write the bridge to a song that he was working on for the next album.
Wow.
And I tried to come up with something. I gave him a little demo thing. I doubt that he's going to even use it, even though he's a fan and everything. It was just sort of like, my brain is just not wired that way. It was just so difficult for me to write lyrics that weren't tongue-in-cheek or funny. It just went against, everything in my DNA. So it's not the kind of thing that I'm good at or used to. I mean, I can try. I mean, I can write music that isn't funny, but lyrics are tough for me just because I just feel like that's not who I am.
I get that. Especially after this long in the business and this being the thing you do, you'd be expressing. You would probably, I would imagine, be like, well, what's the funny way I could express this exact same idea?
Right.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. I mean, it's in the original interview, like I said, I wasn't quite sure, and I was curious if you had ever. I love that you've still been asked, but you've done it. You've tried. You did it.
I've tried. Yeah. It's just not my. It's it's not my fort.
At one point, he asked you if you're ever tempted to throw in 4-letter words. I know that's a common type of. You're a family-friendly gentleman, but. You did say the idea has crossed my mind. So has there ever been a song where you, in your head, you did write a 4-letter word? You never.
Not really. No. I mean, so sometimes when you're coming up with lyrics, you think, well, that would fit perfectly, but I'm never going to use that.
Of course.
But no, I mean, it wasn't ever a case of me going, oh, darn, I wish I could say this, but it would go against my brand, know?
Right. It's just not your thing. That's fair.
Yeah.
Also on this, I'm sorry, this is going to be all over the place, but I had never listened to this until today. You brought a record with you to play on the show by a young boy named Nico Princely. Holy cow.
Yes. Oh, have you ever had John Schwartz on your show? I don't remember.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
He would have been a good person to ask about that, because he's the guy that, I think he played drums on that record, but he was the Nico Princely connection, and I don't know what Nico's doing these days. That was a while ago, so I don't know if he's still in the music business.
He's like a 5-year-old or 8-year-old little Elvis impersonator,
Yes.
and not even impersonating. He's just singing, and it's the cutest thing you've ever heard.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing.
I did look him up, but I don't want to say what I found because it could be wrong. It might be a different guy named Nico Princely, but if it is him, he's made some interesting career choices.
Is he still an Elvis impersonator?
No. If it's him, caveat. If it's him, he's a photographer, very specific type of photographer. And it's interesting. Yeah, it's a very interesting career turn he's made. Okay, I found one other thing that I want to ask you about.
Okay.
In digging through Variety, there's something called Dog Eat Dog, a musical review. Does this sound...
No, nothing to do with me as far as I know. I mean...
Well, here's what it says, is that it's using songs from writers. It doesn't say that you had anything to do with it. And they also spell weird, W-I-E-R-D, and spell your last name Yankovitch. They fully ruin your last name. It's a song that it says uses music from Peter Allen, The Bobs, Emmylou Harris, Melanie, and Weird Al Yankovic. Never heard of it. Sounds like somebody who's just using your
I can't say that I have. This is sort of news to me. Was this ever produced anywhere?
It's set in is this 1988 or so, thereabouts? Yeah, it says that musically there are some splendid moments. So this is a full-on review of a thing that they watched.
Oh, okay.
So
well, glad to help.
That's insane to me. Okay, I'm sorry, I'd never heard of it. You'd never mentioned it, and I had a feeling that was exactly why. All right, let's talk about Alan Sherman.
All right.
How did he appeal to you? What was the first, why did it strike you as fun?
Well, I obviously like parody, and Alan Sherman was sort of the gold standard back in the early '60s. I wasn't old enough to appreciate him in his heyday, certainly, but if you look at the history, he just had such an amazing streak. Back to back #1 albums for a comedy album, within 18 months of each other. He had 3 #1 albums, something crazy like that. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, he had just as much of a dramatic fall from grace and fall from the charts, and his personal life took a turn for the worse. Mm-hmm. Which was all very sad. But when he was at the pinnacle of his fame, it was just an amazing thing. And he turned out quite a body of work. He was so skilled in the art of parody. He didn't do a lot of pop song parodies. He did mostly public domain. Mm-hmm. Which very smart, very smart.
Yeah.
And I remember, before I even heard Alan Sherman, I remember looking at his albums at Pick and Save, which my mom used to shop at. It was like this, I don't even know if they're around anymore, sort of like this bargain store. And they would have big bins full of, cutout albums, just discount albums for 25 cents, brand new.
Yes,
there were a bunch of old Alan Sherman albums on there, and I would thumb through them, and I'd see him, and it looked funny. Mm-hmm. I didn't even know what it was, but I remember just staring at those album covers and thinking oh, that looks interesting, not knowing that this would wind up being one of my all-time heroes.
That's crazy to me. But you say that you like parody. You liked parody. When it must have been a slow evolution into that as a concept, right? Or did you know? Had you seen it somewhere, and or was your brain already working that way? Were you already writing parodies?
I don't know the first parody that I ever saw, but I think every kid in the universe, is sort of wired that way. When I was 8 years old, I was making fun of songs on the radio. There was when I was taking accordion lessons, I had a book of songs hits of the '60s. Mm-hmm. And I remember going through the entire song book and changing the lyrics to the words on the songs, and all throughout the book. And nothing that would have been clever or
sure.
witty. They're just stupid, what an 8-year-old would think was funny at the time. But that kind of proves that I was always a bit wired that way, and I'm not sure where it came from. I think most kids go through that stage, and I just am still going through that stage.
I think it might have something to do with just the fact that when we're little, we're taught to, and we are rewarded when we recognize patterns. And if you recognize a pattern and learn either how to break it or work within it, or break it and work within it at the same time, which you were very well known for doing, you mix up your choruses. It's not just the same freaking chorus every time. Yeah, I guess that could, maybe that's why we're all drawn to it as kids. It's just like, this is a pattern. I get this. What if I put the word poop in here?
Right, exactly. I think there probably was a lot of poop-related humor at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's sort of like the basic core of comedy is like establishing a structure and then deviating from it. And that's sort of like what parody is. Like, people are familiar with the way it's supposed to be, and then it takes a left turn.
Yeah. Have people stopped calling you a novelty act? I hope to God after this long they have.
Well, I don't know. I mean, not to my face so much. I mean, it's not like a dirty word. It's just that it has like connotations.
Yeah.
Like I mean, I don't need to tell you this, but like novelty music, that's a handle that isn't taken seriously. It connotes, here today, gone tomorrow. It's a very ephemeral kind of art form, and it implies it's worthy of less respect than quote unquote real music. Mm-hmm. So in the purest sense, I guess I am a novelty artist, and I always have been, just because what I do is so novel, and it's certainly out of the mainstream, and that's what it is. I just wish that label didn't have such bad connotations.
Yeah, I think that's more my concern, because we've talked about it, obviously a billion times on here, and it's like, if you call something a novelty, it then sounds immediately like it's just a tossed off description, and you don't want to dig into it any further. And I do think you've helped that. I think you've helped that definition, if only due to longevity and the fact that you continue to keep up with stuff. I think that does elevate the rest of novelty records in a way.
Thank you. I like to call myself a novelty dinosaur, because I've kind of broken the mold. Because like historically, like somebody would have like a big top 40 novelty hit, and then that's it. They'd be like a footnote in pop history. And I certainly didn't think that I'd be like still here, like doing podcasts, to this day. So it amazes me that I still get to do what I do. But yeah, I like to think that I've helped maybe advance novelty music or comedy music into a place where people don't look down their nose at it quite so much.
Have you had to actively, not against your will, but actively keep up with pop culture in a way? I'm 40 and I'm falling, and I know that I'm done. So
I honestly, ever since Mandatory Fun came out, I don't listen to pop radio quite so much anymore. Of course, if like a major hit breaks through, of course I'm aware of it. But there are times when I'll look at the Billboard Top 10 chart, which I used to be intimately familiar with, and say, I don't think I know a single one of these songs. And I hate to admit that, but it's sort of like, I'm certainly not retired, but I'm just not focusing on parody songs quite so much anymore. I'm trying to develop some TV shows and some movie projects and other things like that. Again, I haven't stopped recording. I've slacked off a bit. I'm not cranking them out the way I used to, and I'm probably not going to ever have another traditional album. But every now and then, if the mood strikes or if a project comes along, I'm very happy to put something else out. But right now, I'm at a point in my life where I just want to try some new things and try to branch out and do some things that I haven't done before or haven't done a lot of before.
Was it exhausting having to keep up with it, or was it just part of your life?
I wouldn't say it was exhausting, because I do enjoy pop music, and it's not necessarily what I would listen to all the time for pleasure. I mean, I tend to listen to the same kind of music I listened to in high school and college as sort of my comfort food of music. But I still enjoy contemporary music and pop music. I just don't feel like it's part of my job description quite so much anymore.
Have you ever considered, or have you done, because maybe I'm not familiar with it, have you ever Alan Sherman'd a classical song?
A classical song? The only thing that comes to mind is the Peter and the Wolf thing I did with Wendy Carlos.
That was my first thought too.
Yeah. Other than that, I don't think so. And the only other thing was I conducted a junior philharmonic for Carmen Suite. But I didn't like put words to classical songs the way that Alan Sherman did.
Sure. Okay. I just figured, if we're exploring new avenues for Weird Al Yankovic to go down, just go back 60 years and see what happens.
Yes.
What are some? Oh man, what question do you hate getting all the time? Because I'm sure I've asked 10 of them.
No, no, no. I mean, you've asked some questions that nobody's ever asked. I mean, and I don't get there are like five questions that I used to get asked all the time from lazy interviewers that just didn't know what else to ask. Mostly, where do you get your crazy ideas? Which is like the most generic question you could ask any comedy artist.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh. And just like, and then just the technical stuff like, do you have to get permission? And even these questions are pretty obvious. So no, you haven't come close to asking anything that generic or mundane.
Good. I wasn't legitimately asking, but thank you for answering anyway. I will take it. And I had one right in front of me and I lost it. This is what happens once in an interview. I lose entirely where I was. I lose track of what had happened.
We'll just cut that right out.
Nah, I'm just gonna leave it in. I'm the idiot. That's fine. Okay, so all right, I want to go back to FM and AM just to keep it on the vinyl tip for a minute. I've never said anything like that. That sounded terrible. Jesus, who am I? Just to continue talking about vinyl. Do you remember the record? Because if you type a whole thing down, I feel like that doesn't help you memorize it. Do you have any bits of it still in your head?
Gosh, I used to have a big chunks of it memorized, but like the whole wonderful wino. But if it was playing, I could probably say it along with it at a few points. Carlin's DJ character, which was like the kind of stuff he was doing before he went like, hippie progressive, alternative comedy before he had his change there. But I mean, I like both sides of George Carlin, but there was something about that old school, radio DJ patter that really kind of appealed to me, and I think that was the part that I tried the hardest to memorize.
This was the era that was handed to me by my mom, so that was the only Carlin I really knew until all of a sudden I saw on TV this guy in a dressed like Steve Jobs but with a ponytail. Right. Yeah. And I was like, what is this? Is the same guy? It really hurt my brain. He had these two big shifts in his career, one which is straight laced to hippie, which actually FM and AM is sort of intended as a demarcation of that. You never had that, but you did have the let's take off the mustache and get LASIK. I mean, that's a change in and of itself. Did it change your career at all?
Well, I mean, I don't think it changed me creatively or artistically. It may have changed in the way people perceive me. I can't say that. Yeah. I don't know. I just remember it was an odd thing for me because I was so known for that first look, the 80s look. I mean, I post hundreds of pictures of kids dressed up like me for Halloween, and 99% is still the mustache and the glasses. So that was the iconic look. And I remember shortly after I had the LASIK surgery, I was able to walk through crowds completely unnoticed, which was weird because I was sort of like used to like kind of, people staring at me, frankly. And it was weird to like just walk in a public place and nobody even looked. I was like, wow, this is different. This is unusual.
Yeah, I don't think I would have placed you unless you had made a big deal, which you kind of, I think, had to make a big deal out of it, sort of. Which is weird to have to do that with your looks. Women go through it more, but it's not, in the entertainment industry especially. But it's not unremarkable that you'd have to do so much to announce that you look different now. It's weird to me. Which I think that's actually the era that I saw you live the first time. It was the Running with Scissors tour. In Delhi, New York. That is where you performed and came into the audience, and I was like really freaked out. More freaked out than I am now, I promise. Is that possible? Okay, let me look at some other questions. Oh, I did want to... Stan Freberg. The reason I'd like to ask you about Stan Freberg is he is notoriously a guy who hated pop music and parodied it from a place of, if not hate, disdain. But I still feel like he's the closest in terms of like making stuff sort of sound like the original thing.
Yeah, I mean, Stan Freberg, obviously another one of my all-time heroes, and also it took pains to have things sound like the original. He's the only one of my heroes that I've actually met in person and worked with. I mean, I've communicated with Tom Lehrer, but we've never met face to face. I almost went to college at UC Santa Cruz just because he was teaching there.
Oh my God.
I came and then I realized that was not the best way to decide what college to go to, because I was trying to major in architecture, and that wasn't they didn't have a school of architecture apparently. So, but I consider that. But yes, I got to work with Stan. Was on my Saturday morning show, the Weird Al Show, which was a trip to have like your hero like doing bits that you wrote. You know, it was crazy for me, and you know, just to hang with him, just to have lunch with him, and just hear these amazing old stories. It was just it was incredible for me.
One of my favorite stories I've ever heard was that he. So it's too bad because I think these all went up for auction after he passed away. But he had trunkfuls of sound effects stuff because obviously he's a radio guy and a comedy album guy. But a lot of those sound effects came from the Fire Sign guys who had rescued a bunch of sound effects stuff from a dumpster. They recorded their first couple albums with him, and then Stan Freberg basically walks by them at the lot, and they're like, "Oh, do you want these?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure." So so those have gone down the history of weird recorded comedy with fantastic sound effects. That is a terrible segue to Fire Sign Theater. Let's talk about when you first heard Fire Sign Theater.
Again, you know, Fire Sign Theater, going back to Pick and Save, that was the other comedy albums, like We're All Bozos on This Bus, and I really like their album covers. And then I didn't really hear them until a bit later, I think in college, because it was a big thing to listen to Fire Sign in college. And particularly, I had a shift on the radio station, the graveyard shift, late in the middle of the night, and late night DJs were notorious for playing Fire Sign because they could like play an entire side of an album and go to the bathroom, go home, take a shower, whatever, come back, and it's still playing. But yeah, I love Fire Sign. I'm still close friends with Phil Proctor. And they just created the theater of the mind, where you put on your headphones and they create a whole world, and the sound effects and the imagination. It was just it was amazing stuff.
And I'm assuming Everything You Know Is Wrong is named after their album, Everything You Know Is Wrong.
Yes. I stole that directly from Fire Sign Theater, and I think I thanked them in my first Grammy speech. But yeah, that was an obvious rip of Fire Sign.
What's funny is I think a couple years later than that, Chumbawamba did the exact same thing. They also called the song of theirs Everything You Know Is Wrong, and for the same reason. I had no idea. Yes. Somebody told me that, and I'm like, that can't be true. So then I interviewed one of the guys from Chumbawamba. He's like, "Oh yeah, we liked Fire Sign. They have a very weird history with comedy music. I would imagine. Here's my dream: is that Chumbawamba and Weird Al get together and make an album that makes no sense. I don't know what that would be, but yeah, it's very interesting that you have both named." Shortly after you did it, they also named a song "Everything You Know Is Wrong." Also, a very good song.
I have big respect for them, not only because I like Tub Thumping a lot, but because they were so incredibly self-aware. They were on, I think it was the Tonight Show, and they were all wearing shirts that said "One Hit Wonder." I thought, wow, well, you called it.
That's so good. What the crazy thing is, they've been around not as long as you have musically, but early 80s, late 70s, they're a punk band that is still they're not together now, but they still do weird punk, but they're like very severe English punk, where they live that as a lifestyle.
I wasn't aware of that. So they're wow.
Yeah. They don't make sense. They don't make sense as an act. And that is, I think, why they're a one-hit wonder, because if you can't make sense of them, you can't sell them.
Exactly.
Which is why, I think there's a way that maybe I don't know, by calling yourself Weird Al, which is, by the way, the fact that is, can I tell you, congratulations on making that a thing that people can say now you don't have to smirk. This is a serious thing you call a human being, is Weird Al. That is very strange that you've done that to humanity.
I've normalized weird.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
But I think because of that, that's a way of what's the word? Of typecasting yourself without really typecasting yourself, because weird can be anything, and you can just move within that concept.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not like I'm going after Meryl Streep's roles in movies, so it's not like that's really going to hold me back.
Are there any... Okay, I'd like to know what inspired you to do the Peter and the Wolf album, actually. Why did that come about?
I think CBS might have pitched that.
Okay.
They said, what would you think about that? The classical division of CBS wants to do a Peter and the Wolf, and we'll have you, and it wasn't Wendy Carlos originally. They pitched, oh, who was it? Mike. I'm gonna get this. Is it Michael Tilson Thomas? Was he a
Okay.
conductor?
No.
That's okay. That's probably not the right name, but and the London Philharmonic, and I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. And then I got to get back to me like, oh, the Philharmonic can't do it. How about Wendy Carlos? Like, well, that's much different, but that's equally amazing. So yeah, of course. And I got to work with Wendy, and that was such a treat. She's just a genius, and just to see her work with all this, at the time, cutting edge equipment,
Yeah.
and I got to hear her diatribe about the evils of CDs, because there are so many frequencies that you can't hear on a CD, and her music is full of all those frequencies.
Sure.
And
Wow.
but yeah, yeah, I haven't spoken to Wendy in a long. I wish I could get back in touch with her. She was very cool. She I don't know if I've ever said this either. She was originally going to do the music for UHF, do the
Oh,
score.
wow.
Yeah, and I'm not exactly sure what happened with that. She and Jay Levy didn't have a falling out, but just didn't see eye to eye creatively. And then John Dupre wound up doing it, who's also amazing. But yeah, I mean, that was just so fun to work with Wendy, and we sort of worked on our own, because I did my vocal tracks at, I think, Village Recorders back in L.A. In fact, I remember, I'm going off on these tangents. I'm so
Good,
sorry.
please. No, otherwise it's me
Sorry.
doing it.
I remember at Village Recorders. My one memory of that was I was singing through a windscreen, and the engineer told me that's actually Stevie Nicks' pantyhose. Because I think they were recording Tusk or something there, and they didn't have a windscreen, so they just jury rigged this thing with her pantyhose, and she was singing through, and they just left it there. So I did the vocals for Peter and the Wolf through Stevie Nicks' pantyhose.
Oh my God. That's the most insane thing I've ever heard. Wow. There must be other weird, where have you recorded all your albums? I'm not, by the way, I'm musically totally ignorant, so I'm not like the nerd for studios that some people are. I'm curious, are there any crazy studios that you've worked in that are super historical?
Well, it depends what you mean by that. The very first legitimate studio that I recorded in was Cherokee Studios in Hollywood, and they're pretty famous.
Yeah.
In fact, I just heard on CNN they're coming back. They were kind of out of business for a while, but they're a legendary studio, and they allowed me to record my first album on spec, which was extremely nice of them. I paid them back, but I mean, the fact that they let this kid with an accordion come in at this legendary studio and record essentially for free was great.
Wow.
And then after I got signed, I was sort of contractually obligated to record at Scotty Brothers' in-house studio,
Okay.
which was Santa Monica Sound Recorders. So I recorded there for years and years and years and years and years, until Scotty Brothers sold my contract to somebody else. And then I was various places. I was at Mad Dog Studios for a while. Trying to think all the places. Westlake, I recorded a lot. That's where Michael Jackson was recording at the same time. I get little notes from next door. And sorry, and the last album I did it at Bedrock, in Echo Park, which was great. I was shopping around for. I shouldn't be saying this. I was shopping around for a deal for where to record my next album, and they said, "Well, you could do it here for free." And I was like, "That's a good deal."
Holy crap.
I'll take it on that. So I did. They were extremely nice to let me do that, and I gave them the when I did that go gold? I don't think it. No, it didn't go gold. It went number one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And won the Grammy. So they were very proud to be part of that.
Wow. Well, I mean, you do sort of ooze goodwill. There's nothing wrong with that. Every once in a while, someone's going to offer you free studio space.
It's that thrifty thing that I inherited from my mom. Was like, that's a good deal. Why wouldn't I do that?
You went to the 25-cent section.
Yeah.
You asked
yeah.
there first. That's absolutely fair. How early on, maybe it was from the beginning, but how early on were you like heavily involved in mixing, producing, getting it to sound exactly how you wanted it?
Well, Rick Derringer produced my first 6 albums, but I was always extremely creatively involved from the beginning. I was always, there wasn't a moment when I wasn't in the studio. it was, for lack of a better word, it was still my vision, even though Rick had all the experience of actually producing records. And after the first 6 albums, it had gotten to the point where I felt like I'd been hovering over Rick long enough that I could take over the reins by myself. I loved what Rick did, and I love him to this day. We actually just did another podcast like last week together.
Wow.
But I just felt at that point I was okay on my own, and it was really sort of like all the ideas were coming from my head anyway, so I didn't have to like translate it to Rick, who then had to translate it to somebody else.
Were there? Please tell me there were sessions where you had to cut out certain armpit farts because it wasn't perfect. You had to have had things like that happen, right?
There were several armpit farts that we did have to delete. Yes, they weren't the right tune or they weren't the right length. So we had to really make sure that they were exactly the way they were written.
Sorry, I have to know these things. These are things that are very... I asked one of the guys who produced all the Python albums, and he, when he would talk about whose body parts were getting slapped to make certain sounds, those are the things that make up. That's a story right there.
Right.
Are all the armpit farts yours? Are they Bermudas? Are they other folks?
No, those were almost entirely musical Mike Kiefer.
Oh, yes, okay.
So and just to be even more accurate, they weren't actually armpit noises. They were made using his hands. He's what is called a manualist. And we would actually use 2 different microphones when we were recording him, because he'd hold his hands together like this. I know it's a podcast, but I'm showing you on the Zoom here, like this. And one microphone would be on top, and one microphone would be on the bottom, because there would be different sounds coming out of both ends. So that's how it was stereo, because it really was stereo coming out of his hands.
Okay, see, that's what I'm talking about. That's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard in terms of comedy production. Oh, that's good. That's so good. I mean, those are the moments, like, I mean, I feel like making comedy, if it gives you actual absurd life experiences that are stuck in your head, I mean, that's when it's worth it.
It's again, it's like such silly stuff, but it is an art and it's a craft. It's like there's engineers like saying, I think there's more trouble coming out of the top of his hands, and we'll let's roll down the EQ on that.
Have you, just to go back a second to the Peter and the Wolf thing, have there ever been other experimental things you have wanted to try and haven't gotten to try out that weren't just strictly a straight up Weird Al comedy album?
Not off the top of my head. I mean, I kind of feel like I've done everything I've wanted to do in terms of musically. I mean, I can't think of any other direction that I want to go. I've certainly been able to try out every idea imaginable in my 14 studio albums, and there's not a genre really that I feel like, oh gosh, I wish I had done more wailing songs. So again, I mean, now I'm trying to see if I can just use my comedy and other media. So we'll see if that works out. It may or may not. The records were always more of a sure thing. It's sort of like the day job.
Wow. Yeah, that's. I guess I hadn't thought about it that way. Records seem so. Well, they're very permanent, obviously, especially if they're vinyl. They've got this. Let's talk about the art a little bit. I'm fumfering, and I apologize, but let's talk about like cover art and stuff. You are obviously incredibly picky about how those look. I mean, going back to the first record, which has just, I still have not pored over it enough to find all the details on the cover. Do you seek people out yourself for the cover art? Is that something where you want input there?
It depends. I mean, sometimes I'll have just an idea for what the visual should be, and then the record label will recommend a photographer or an artist or what have you. For the first album cover, that was done by a Brazilian artist named Rogério, who I don't think he was married at the time, but he is now married to Andrea Romano, who's a big voiceover director. She works on The Simpsons. She's hired me for a number of things over the years. She's like the top voiceover director for animation, certainly. But Rogério, basically, we wanted to do something in the style of Mad Magazine. I'm not sure why we didn't just go to Mad Magazine, but
right.
For whatever reason, Rogério had the job, and I think we probably gave him just a list of things to try to include like this huge laundry list. Could you put this in it and this in it and this in it? And I think you wind up putting like everything in it. So that album is just cramped back. That's one of those albums that you really need the LP, because if you have it, on anything smaller than that, you really, miss the full experience. You miss the detail.
Yeah, which is why I'm excited that, you've released everything on vinyl so far. I mean, I know that it's, again, we're not going to have, you released it in an entire gigantic box set that, we all want, but none of us can afford. But it is beautiful. It is that, oh my God, it's such a good piece of work. I think Bermuda, when he was on here, was working on recreating the covers, if I'm not mistaken. At that time, he was on his way to recreating some of the original art for the covers, because not all the original assets existed, which is why the stuff is complicated.
I think some of the stuff he actually had to just, literally scan an LP because the record label thought, oh, we won't need these masters anymore.
This is the kind of thing that drives me insane when I hear these things. Like I've heard all of the backstage drama for Firesign, and like, if they need a master, they need this or that. I mean, Bermuda gave me bits and pieces of working, with you, who, he's been archiving your stuff from the beginning, but it's still stuff. If you don't own it, you don't own it. I mean, that could be very stressful.
Bermuda and I learned to go through the dumpsters at the record label and see what they're throwing. We walked away with like a cars full of like promotional CDs and stuff like that that literally they were throwing in the trash. And I was like, I'll keep this in my garage for 40 years. I'll hold on to this. I'm not proud.
I mean, you've got to do what you got to do. You got to save this stuff, especially if it's comedy. I'm mostly interested in comedy history. Are there? Okay, well, I hate it's such an open-ended thing, but are there other influences that you don't talk about that often? Other comedy influences or music influences?
I mean, certainly. I mean, I've got a huge list of artists, and I hate to even start mentioning, going down that road, because I mean, basically everybody I heard on the Dr. Menno show, they're people, contemporary people that influenced me to this day. Lonely Island, Tenacious D, Roy Zimmerman, Garfunkel and Oates, Reggie Watts, Bo Burnham. I mean, see, even now I feel like I could go on for like 10 minutes, like naming names. But I'm influenced by everybody in the comedy music scene, both back when I was a kid and nowadays. I mean, I'm glad to see that the scene is still around, and now with the internet, I think it's probably thriving more than ever, because it's not just relegated to one radio show or it's any kind of comedy music ghetto. Like anybody that wants to get their stuff out there now, it's as easy as just uploading it to the internet.
I will say, back in the days of stealing music, not that I ever did this kind of thing, as I'm sure you know, every comedy song ever was uploaded under the name Weird Al Yankovic.
And I wrote them all, yeah.
Yep. I will say I wrote a book and that does purport that that's the truth, that you did actually write them all. That's part of the book anyway. Are there any... have you ever heard any of those? And did any of them ever be like, oh, that's a compliment that they actually think that's me? Have you ever heard any of them?
Of course, I've heard a lot of those. Most of them I would prefer not to have my name associated with. Either they're not that good, or they're a little profane or racist or what have you. Just that's not really what I'm about. And every now and then, somebody like Mark Davis will do Rice Baby, and I'll go, well, that's sort of in the wheelhouse. That's sort of like, it's a food parody that's, fairly on the mark. That's something that I would have done, probably,
I think that is a weird thing too. I'm certain there are people who have got it into their heads unconsciously. If they love parody and they want to go into it, they probably do think you have to start with food or movies now. I mean, it is because, right? I mean, you don't have any other life experience as a kid either, really. Food and entertainment are your two things. Or as Eddie Murphy would put it, talking about pooping, which we've all talked about as children. My goodness. Is there a comedy album we haven't discussed that might be worth discussing? One that you either had or listened to? I mean, I know you didn't have a ton.
Sure there is. Oh, gosh, what else?
See, this is a problem. I should have given you homework, but I really did not want to inconvenience you. I felt terrible.
I will say another one of my favorite early comedy albums was Credibility Gap, A Great Gift Idea.
Oh.
That's one of my all-time favorite. And I was familiar with that just because I think at the time KMET, which also had the live Dr. Demano show, they would play little excerpts from that album, and I was like, what where's this coming from? And I found out there was Credibility Gap, which they've gone on to do like so many amazing things in comedy over the years, just unfathomable amount of talent there. So I was, I guess I must have recognized that early on because I just thought this was just an incredible piece of work in the, as a comedy album.
Yeah, they're a weird instance in comedy in that most of them are not there for the first iteration of the group. The first album, I don't think any of them are on it. It's all a totally different group of people. And then if I'm not mistaken.
A Credibility Gap?
Yeah, the first album is, I'd have to look up everybody. I'm so sorry because the nerds will know, but all the people on the first album are not the folks that are on A Great Gift Idea or the other ones. There was a changeover.
What was the album called?
The first album is called An Album of Political Pornography, and there's a guy on the cover who looks a lot like Philip Seymour Hoffman, and it's obviously not him. I
thought I was a fan, but I'm not familiar with that at all.
It's not great, and it's fine, but it's not. It's not what they become. It is not the sort of Fire Sign-ish sketch, like just rich sound. I mean, that's my favorite thing. I mean, I feel like outside
and it's none of the original guys? No,
I don't think so. I could be wrong. There might be one crossover. But yeah, not the guys that we associate with it. Not the guys who became Spinal Tap or Lenny and Twiggy.
Can I start a group called the Beatles and it just won't have any of the original guys?
Yeah. I mean, that was my next thought. I mean, if Bermuda suddenly puts on curly hair, it's not going to be exactly the same group. It's not going to be the same exact thing. Credibility Gap. I'm not going to waste my time with this. Take my word for it. Can we just go with that? Okay. We'll just say take my word for it. I'm pretty sure it's true. I want to thank you, for doing the show.
My pleasure.
And for, giving of me your time and, for being, instrumental in me making my best friend. It's a very important thing. That also kind of devalues our friendship and says, oh yeah, this one album is the only reason we're friends. That's not true. It's just one of the first things that was there. Well, Cheech and Chong. It was in 3D. In 3D is the first thing. He said, hold this, watch this. He didn't say watch this. That's weird because it's an album. He told me to listen to it. I can't speak right now. I'm so sorry. I will tell you, I've met you before, and you make me nervous every time just because you're too nice. Because you're too nice. It's nothing to do with you. It's you're nice, and I'm a garbage human, and it's just not fair. It just doesn't work.'ve been the kindest person every time I've met you. Including up in here somewhere. Like I said, this episode is not going to come out until November because this is going to be our final episode. Is there anything
I want to congratulate you on an amazing run? I have listened to the show on many occasions, and it's just a joy to listen to. I mean, bless you for bringing comedy music to so many people and getting into the weeds and allowing me to ramble on as well. I mean, I don't normally go off on so many tangents and all these details that only like real comedy nerds would appreciate. So thank you for giving all these people a voice, and it's a great show. I'm sorry to see it end, but I'm honored to be the not the penultimate, but the ultimate.
The ultimate, exactly. Is there anything coming out around November 17th that you want to promote?
Thanksgiving. I think Thanksgiving's around there. So happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Okay, I'm going to ask you one other thing. And,
okay.
I will leave this off the record because you can say no. There's seriously no pressure. I've convinced my best friend that somebody else is on the podcast today, and I would love to Zoom him in just to say hi and surprise you, and maybe he'll die of a heart attack. It'll be the funniest thing that's ever happened. Would you be okay if I zoomed him in for 5 minutes?
I hope he doesn't die, but I'm fine with that.
Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you. And by the way, if he doesn't respond to this, I'll be the reason he dies. If he doesn't respond, he knows he's waiting for this. Okay. His name is Dan. Here, I'm going to point something out to you. So again, this is Dan as a young man compared with, and you'll see why, but, we used to say that you were his secret father just because of, there we are. So that was always the joke growing up. And Dan, if you don't respond, I'm gonna. Oh my God, Dan! I've been doing this. I've been using the podcast when I can. I might as well do it on the last episode to surprise people every once in a while with people they're fans of. If Dan doesn't respond, you go in 5 minutes. I'm not going to force you to stick around. I'll wait for him to come on. I don't know. I'm sorry. I've been rambling this entire time. I've never been so nervous. I apologize, but this is so super kind of you.
Absolutely my pleasure.
I think In 3D is my favorite album, if we're just going to talk about stuff that I like.
Okay.
I love them all. That is just the album that means so much to me.
Thank you. Now, how old were you when that came out?
Came out in 83 or 84? 84, right?
84.
Yeah, I was 4. But I hadn't heard it yet. I didn't hear it till I was
okay.
10. I think I lived in Germany at that time.
Was that the first one of my albums you heard?
It had to have been, yeah, because I'd heard all the other music through music videos, because my parents, like I said, rented one of those, home videos of your videos. And, So, but that was the first full album, because I don't think I knew that there were comedy albums. I don't think I really knew that it would have been the first one I had ever heard, probably. And then there's this Billy Connolly album that my mom, for some reason, let me listen to, which is filth. It's absolute filth. Should not have let me listen to. All right, if Dan doesn't come on in 4 minutes, he's got to understand what he's missing out on. Dan. All right.
So are you I think I already know the answer to this. Were you the person that would go to the record store and immediately go to the comedy section and rifle through all the comedy albums?
Still, I don't go anywhere else. That's why I'm musically so ignorant. I have my 3 bands, and I kind of stick to those.
Yeah.
Which is They Might Be Giants, Queen, and XTC. And only XTC...
Excellent.
Because I was born in Swindon, where they're from. That's the only reason. Completely selfish reason. I feel like there's got to be a million questions that I should have asked you. And I feel like I'm wasting your time by just sitting here by doing this. I'm so sorry. I wore an almost aloha
anywhere.
What's your favorite album of yours?
Of mine? My stock answer is always, whatever my most recent album is. And I don't really, because here's another question, like, how do you determine, like, what's the best album, the most consistently good album, or is there one with, like, maybe some great stuff, but then some real clunkers on it? Do you take an average? Like, are greatest hits albums out of the running because that's cheating?
Right.
There's so many parameters here, and I don't know. I will say, as a very general thing, I think my last 7 albums are much better than my first 7 albums.
Okay.
If that helps.
That's it's absolutely fine. Is there a particular reason? Is it the sound? Is it
I got better.
You just got better.
Yeah, I think, it's that the whole Malcolm Gladwell thing. You get better if you do something for a long time, and I think musically it's better, and I think the lyrics are better, and the production's better, and I just, I just paid more attention and more work every single time I put out an album. So, it's not, like the first album, we recorded all the basic tracks in like 10 hours, just because.
Okay. Wow.
It was just, we didn't, I didn't know, like, you're supposed to, like, take your time and do it right. I just thought, because at the time, because the first studio, I know that it was on spec, but I knew that I'd have to pay them back if I got a record deal. And the studio time was, whatever it was, $75, $100 an hour. And I was working in a mailroom for minimum wage at the time, and I'm thinking, if I have to go to the bathroom, that's going to cost me like $15, $20. I can't do that. I was just like racing through all these songs, and like My Bologna was faster than I would have liked, but it's like, it's close enough. Move on, next one. So and now, like, everything is just meticulous, and I just really take my time, and I'm not like Fleetwood Mac, who spends like a year and a half in the studio, but it's everything is really well prepared, but a lot of time and energy goes into every single track now.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I guess that makes sense. There is, well, it's such a dumb default thing to say. It's so punk. That early sounds so punk. You just did it, so minimalist. But it's like, no, we were poor. If that's what punk is, we were poor. Poor is punk. Which may be true. That's the case for the Chumbawamba folks. Dan's about to hop on. Do you want to leave? Because I cannot keep you. That's not fair to you.
No, I'm good.
You're very kind. Jesus, this is everything everybody says is nice. Well, then here, I'll point out 2 other things. And the other 2 times you were kind to me. I once annoyingly tapped your shoulder and told you why I became best friends with Dan. And this was, by the way, while you're getting ready to shoot something, and I felt terrible about it, but I felt like I had to do it. Then also, I'm in the Perform This Way video as a photographer, because see, now I'm sounding like a stalker. I shouldn't be telling you these things. I'm just a big fan. My other friend, Kurt, who was there with me, has seen you 50 plus times, so he's worse than me.
Wow.
Does that properly like push it off on somebody else that I'm less?
No, you did well. That's great.
Good. Thank you so much. If Dan doesn't come on here, like literally, he will never live this down for the rest of his life. This is terrible. My goodness. I do hope I get to hear some new songs from you soon. No pressure, but I hope what you're writing is UHF too. That's all I care about. If it's 2HF, VHF, which is 5HF, that doesn't work.
I wish I could. I'm not.
I know you can. Of course you can't.
It's one of those, it's one of those kind of things where I've got several irons in the fire, and if any of them, get greenlit, it's my life will change, and I'm going to be working on them nonstop, and it's going to be a big deal. Mm-hmm. But it's sort of, and I've said this, for decades. It's a miracle when anything gets made.
Oh yeah,
because it's just the amount of hoops that anybody has to jump through to get a project, off the ground. It's which is why I was so easy for me to always just go back to the albums, because I know if I record an album, it's going to get put out, but if I write a screenplay, there's a 1% chance it'll be a movie. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's why I've been forced to make my own. I've made my own movies and they look like it. They look like they're made by me, but you have to do it. You have to. It's a weird compulsion that I have to make comedy. And I think that's just how it goes. And you're partly responsible for that, and I appreciate it. I do. I very much do. If Dan doesn't come on here, I'm going to murder him. Dan's going to die. Dan's going to absolutely die if he does not come on here. And holy shit, I'm so sorry. This is embarrassing.
All right.
No, it's not okay. It's not all right. Boy, oh boy, what's new?
Well, what else?
Got any podcasts coming up I should listen for?
Oh, I'm going to be doing a Conan's podcast next week. That'll be fun. Mm-hmm. And I'm doing Gilbert's podcast the week after that.
Of course.
That'll be fun.
What obscure celebrity is he going to ask you about that you've never heard of?
We're doing the whole podcast on Larry Storch.
Okay.
From F Troop.
Mm-hmm. Good. I hope so. Larry Storch is still around. He's like 99 or 100.
Is he? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I saw him at some kind of convention several years ago. And still wearing the F Troop outfit, but he looked well, but he was in his 90s, I think.
Yeah. He still goes around to those things. I love that he does it, and he's honestly, if that could be my career, I would take it. If I had a B part on Star Trek, I would milk that for the rest of my life.
You know what? Why not? Why not?
Are you there, Dan?
Working on it.
Hurry up! Your real father's here, Dan.
I know. I see that.
Hey, Dan.
I just peed a little bit. It's fine. Just a little.
We've been waiting for you.
I was mowing the lawn, trying to be a good boy.
Well, I told you. I gave you a heads up. Dan, say something nice to Weird Al. You'll never speak to him again because I'm going to prevent it by murdering you.
I appreciate everything you have done for the music industry.
Oh, well, thank you.
You say that like you're in the music industry. You're a comedian, idiot. Say something about comedy, you dumps.
I also appreciate everything you've done for the comedy industry.
Great. Thank you, Dan.
And for everything industry, for the world.
I think he covered it. I think it's all covered now.
I think so,
It's all covered now. It's all good.
Well, there we go, Dan. I just wanted you to meet Weird Al Yankovic, and
I'm very excited.
I mean, it's more important. Al, from the moment we started, Al was asking about you and how he couldn't speak to you, and I kept telling him to just shut up for a minute. And
every few minutes, I was like, "Is Dan here yet? Is he showing up?"
Yeah,
I was told Dan would be there.
At least he's asking about me and not my wife, like Dan Gore.
Oh, that's true. We had Dan Gore from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and he kept asking to see Dan's wife for some reason. It was very weird and creepy, but it's okay. Well, I'm just very quickly going to say thank you again, Al, for doing the show.
My pleasure.
For helping me do my final episode. Dan Gomiller, thanks for being here. Thanks for being my best friend for 30 years. And thank you guys for listening. And as always, have a good thing. That's hilarious. Only so much you can do. You still hear it? Absolutely, you can. That what I'm assuming you can hear this too, folks at home. This is the radio, some radio station that my microphone picks up. I was just switching them out because my other microphone was picking up radio signal, and I thought I'd switch out to this one, which is my original microphone. They're both the same model. Got them both at the same time. And I was switching this one out, pardon me, because I thought, well, again, I told you I was switching it out, but I thought it'd be nice because this is the original one. This is the one I recorded every episode of this podcast on until I moved here to Detroit. Because again, is it still there? Now there's some other interference. See, this is the thing. You still not used to this new space. What are you going to do? Thank you for listening to my episode with Weird Al. It meant a lot to do it, and it meant a lot for you to listen to it. Provided you listen to the whole thing, which obviously you're getting rewarded. Well, I don't know if this is a reward, having to listen to somebody go on for hopefully not too long, giving you their thoughts, while again, some random radio station plays in the background. Maybe I can filter this out and you won't hear it. Not likely. God, that's terrible. That's not why I'm ending the podcast, but boy, oh boy, it'd be a hell of a reason to stop, right? So I wanted to give a few thoughts on the ending of the show. Some of these are going to be written. Some of these are going to be off the top of my head. I'm doing this not after having listened to that episode. I haven't actually re-listened to it much since it was recorded. I'm recording this on the 6th of November, 11 days before the podcast officially ends, 11 days before this episode comes out. And I don't know, I just wanted to get some thoughts out about the show in general, since it's been a huge part of my life for almost 11 years. The biggest challenge of the show was always, weird scheduling issues, but definitely getting people on who I dreamed to have on. And I know that I've gone over this with a few people on the show, that my dream gets were always Cheech and Chong and Weird Al, and then Mel Brooks, if that could happen. Now I've met Mel Brooks, and so that's, I say met. We were in the same room, and a friend of mine had the guts to ask for a hug. She was an adorable lady, so he gave her a hug, and I did not ask for a hug, and I'm pretty sure I would have been denied one. But yeah, that would have been fun too. But for this show to be wrapped up and bookended perfectly, obviously, Weird Al had to be the final episode, and that was actually part of the thing that helped me get him scheduled on the show. I won't go into too much detail as to how that all happened, but I will thank Taylor Jessen for it. He is the reason that ended up happening. So if you want to follow him on Twitter and annoy him, it's at SidFudd, SIDFUDD. Follow him and thank him for me, because I can't thank him enough for giving me that. Even having met the man twice before in my life, it was another thing entirely to sit down and interview him, which is, I hope, what I did. As far as I know, I just blathered on for an hour and, barely said anything coherent. But, if that's the case, fine. That's how many of us go out. That's what happens to humankind sometimes, right? Did that make any sense? I don't know. This podcast has been huge for me. Obviously, it's been it's not a career maker like some podcasters are for some people, and I might sort of reiterate that through what I'm about to say, but I don't want that to sound like a complaint or me asking for pity. Much as I would have loved to have had this be a huge, massive show, I'm not complaining, because I've met so many amazing people through this, gotten so many great emails from folks who listen, and I know how many people listen, and it's a not insignificant amount of people. And yes, only one person would be a not insignificant amount of people, but this is fortunately more than that, and that counts for more, and I'm a better person than I would be if I only had one. That's a joke. It just, I don't know. This show was, I thought I was supposed to, I've reiterated this a lot, but I thought I was supposed to have a theme for my show, and I didn't have a theme for the show, or pardon me, I did have a theme ready to go, because I didn't know that you didn't have to have a theme, that you could just bullshit. I'm glad I didn't, though, because it would have been, I don't know. It wouldn't have been nearly the same show. It would have been what Dan and Jay's Comedy Hour, my other podcast, has become, which is Dan and I bullshitting for an hour and a half, sometimes 2.5 hours, sometimes longer, depending on the day and depending on the subject matter and how drunk we are. I figure maybe the best way to start this off is to thank some people. And I'm going to definitely forget people. Some of them on purpose, not true. But I want to make sure that I thank a number of people, including my wife, number one, for putting up with hundreds of hours of recording in our homes. Both the places we've lived together. We've lived together in 3 different places. And these last 2, I've recorded all 400 plus episodes of this show, with a few exceptions of, going elsewhere. And then, enough other episodes of other shows to reach over 1,000 episodes of shows. It's too much, arguably, especially when it's not a career. But it is a passion. She respects that. She always has. She's, person who supports my comedy vinyl buying habits, much as those have stopped since the pandemic started. The one thing she doesn't like this is that I own 20 copies of The First Family and haven't done anything with them. That's not true. I've just started doing a little bit of something, but I don't think she's any more pleased. Understandably, it's that obsession makes no sense. I'm a little warm. I'm going to take my sweater off. My mom, who I don't thank often on this show because, whatever, she's my mom. She loves me. She doesn't need extra thanks. Hi, Mom. You're not listening to this, but if you are, thank you for giving me comedy records in the first place, that most of which were my grandmother's. If I hadn't gotten those, even though the first stuff I listened to was on tape, if I hadn't gotten those, I wouldn't have been obsessed with the idea of comedy on vinyl, just as a subject, and they wouldn't have become such a big part of my early life, to which end I should thank my sister. I should thank my best friend, Dan Gomiller, and my late friend, Mike Shaver, because we shared those records together, shared different parts of different records for different reasons. Dan and I were mostly obsessed with certain cassettes, but he definitely listened to the vinyl stuff with me when I was a kid. I'd like to also thank Dan's wife and one of my other best friends, Ari, because she was there early on. Mike Worden. Mike Worden is, credited as producer of every episode of the show, and for good reason. He gave me some advice early on with the show. He lent me a recorder for the first 4 frigging years of the show. It was a small portable recorder, but I couldn't afford one at the time. I don't think I could afford one now, but I had one for 4 years because of Mike. And because of that, I was able to go a few different places and record some stuff. And while it may not have sounded perfect, that was with me while we recorded, some of the better listened to episodes, like the first episode with Matt Besser. That's not the first episode, but the first episode with a quote unquote name. No insult to my other guests, of course, but with a name in comedy that people beyond my certain group recognized. Matt Besser is a known commodity, and he was the first person to do it in that way. So I thank him as well. But Mike Worden was, there, and he supported it the whole way. He even started, he did a mini podcast called The Cast. It was all about cast albums, and a lot of those were stuff that was definitely on vinyl. It's a show that I would love to see come back because it was great, and he has so much deep knowledge of this shit that I don't understand at all. And I love musicals, I love theater, but I don't have the knowledge of them. I should thank the people at A Drinking Game, which is a show that I was in. I started in that show, 3 months before I started this podcast. So that's been a part of my life longer than this, which is crazy because they are the two things. They just started at roughly the same time. And the two things, if I'm ever recognized, which barely happens, but it has happened. Or if I'm if I get I've heard of that, or I've seen that, or, oh, you're in that. Oh, great, wonderful, delightful. The comedy on vinyl and A Drinking Game are the two things that have given me the most recognition, but also the hugest thrills of my life. A Drinking Game has been an opportunity to sort of live inside the movies, which has always been a dream of mine, something I only recently articulated and realized, that's kind of been a huge part of my life. And A Drinking Game is a big part of it, and it's gotten me guests on the show, friends as well, but also I've sought out people whose parts I've played in those shows and spoken to them. That's been fun. Dan Schlissel discovered the podcast early enough to, make the rest of this show sound fantastic because he ended up supporting the show, and he's the reason I have the good mics and I have the good mixer. He is not to blame for any terrible mixing issues on my part, which I'm fully aware have been there. I am not a perfect audio engineer when it comes to this stuff, especially like long form interview stuff. It's but I'm always satisfied with how it sounds. But Dan Schlissel has not just been, I feel like I'm underselling all of these people, but Dan Schlissel has been supporting it that way. He's been on the show. I know he's told other people about it. He's spread the word on his Roku channel, put some of my episodes up on his Roku channel, which I think is still up there. It is. I saw it the other day, as a matter of fact. He and I are working together on the Dick Davey album, which is so exciting. And actually, since the announcement the other day, I've gotten more news about, like, I really wish I could announce who's doing the cover art, because it's very exciting. I think it's a weird choice. It was my choice. I think it's a weird choice for the subject matter, but I think it's also weirdly perfect. So once that art happens, I'm very excited about it. I'm excited about the whole thing. I did write the liner notes, which I'm pretty proud of. I got to double check, make sure they're still good. But I think they're okay. But yeah, Dan Schlissel's just been a huge part of it. Just this whole friggin' adventure, and a very good friend, and a very good, and it's, I did not expect that to happen with this show, especially since, I moved out to LA in 2003, not knowing, I figured out what I was going to do is I'm going to be a director, or I'm going to be a screenwriter right away. I'm going to start selling movies. That didn't happen. But, when I did make friendships, you sort of learn, you're sort of taught this sort of just get used to friendships being temporary kind of thing, and sometimes get used to them being insincere or very very surface, very shallow friendships. And I unfortunately took part in that definitely early on, because I was an idiot and didn't know any better. So when I made friends on this podcast, I wasn't aware how many of them were like sincere efforts to be friends, and this show helped me realize that's what those were. So did a drinking game, actually. The sort of partnerships that you have to have on stage or in an interview or in doing business or whatever sort of teach you in a backwards way how to be friends with people if you're as emotionally and socially stunted as I can be. So, they've helped with that. And Dan Schlissel's a big part of this. He's genuinely a very good friend and a sweetheart. And honestly, like, no joke, like, puts out the best vinyl comedy and the best comedy period, including like local stuff, but not just local stuff. I say local at Minneapolis, like a lot of great Minneapolis comedians, but a lot of comedians from elsewhere as well. Dan's got good taste. Dan's got really good taste. So buy his damn records. Such good stuff, including the Dick Davey record when it comes out, because it's going to be good. It's a weird little record, and I love it very much. It's not often that you get to be like, hey, somebody found this treasure, isn't that cool? And then, oh, well, let's turn this treasure into something that isn't just a podcast. I love putting stuff out as podcasts, but I've had to hold on to it because I sort of felt like it was something else. Yeah, we already thanked Matt Besser. That's on the list. Yeah, you can see some of this is definitely written down. I have a list. And also, of course, thank you to Richard Levinson, who provided the theme song to the show, Smile, after only a few episodes. I can't remember when we originally introduced it, but it's very memorable, and that song means a lot to me. It wasn't composed for this, but he's been kind enough to let us use it this whole time. Rachel Bloom, here's the thing. Rachel Bloom did the show. Every time she did the show, she was at a differing level of fame, but by the time she hit Crazy Ex-Girlfriend levels, it was like, oh shit, she can never come back. That will never happen. She's the busiest person I've ever tried to get on the show again. And I thank her because she did the show at all early on, and it was obvious from second one of meeting her. It's like, oh, like I already knew she was funny, but it's just like, oh, damn it. Okay, she's somebody to like keep your eye on. And she's the first person I think that I got to, as a result of doing this show, feel this sort of like, I won't call it friendship. We don't know each other well enough to call it friendship. But to feel this sort of like, I don't know, pride, because I feel like when you say pride, that sounds like you're being diminutive and you're like demeaning the person sometimes, but that's not what that is in this case. It's genuine pride in accomplishment, because seeing her go from a viral video to Jesus, holy shit, how is anybody this good at anything, is so impressive. And to have been a tiny, and I mean a minuscule part of that, has always been a source of pride. And she let me be in one of her music videos. That's another one. I mean, that was super, super, super fucking fun. But having her on the podcast was a damn joy. She's hilarious. I will thank Weird Al. Weird Al, just like Dan, is one of the reasons this show even exists. The first 2 episodes, which I will never stop apologizing for, just because of how terrible the concept was. In case you don't know, the first 2 episodes, we talked over 2 records, and Jesus, was it a terrible idea, but it got better from there, I think. I like to think within a few episodes we've sort of figured out what it was, and it progressively got even crazier and crazier. But Weird Al has been the subject matter for, I have not counted, but it's countless. It's probably the majority outside of Steve Martin and George Carlin. I would imagine the 2 of them are, pretty. The 3 of them are probably pretty neck and neck. But Weird Al is one of the huge ones. Taylor Jessen, I made friends with through the show. He contacted me. He's like, "Hey, I heard you talked to Phil Proctor on the show. Would you like some CDs that I've worked on? Here's what I do. Blah blah blah." And easily, he's one of my closest friends on the planet, and it's because of the show, and that's delightful. Yeah, I mean, by the way, I cannot even begin to detail how many things he has helped me out with, but I mean, obviously the Weird Al thing is huge. I'm happy that he and Dan Schlissel now work together, which, I'm going to give myself all the credit. That's all me. I made all the business deals. I wrote out all the contracts. None of that happened. Phil Proctor, holy cow. Phil Proctor is one of my favorite people. And it's funny because I started this show not being that familiar with Fire Signs material. I now am familiar with it, and I'm still half the time dumbfounded by it because I still don't know what's going on because it's usually too fast and smart for me. And I consider myself a fairly fast, smart person, but Fire Sign, I love listening to it to try and figure it out. And Phil Proctor is half of the reason for that because he is joy. I just hit my desk. He's been a part of a couple comedy albums of mine. One, and then the other one that I'm working on now, he's in that as well. And never had anybody give me better options for hey, can I try it this way? And all of them are perfect. Yeah, you can try it any way you want, Phil. You're a genius. He's a comedy legend. And how the hell do I know him? It's fucking nuts. It's absolutely nuts. None of this is bragging. I hope you understand that. It's not bragging. I am just, now I'm just pouring out how friggin' fortunate I am. Jimmy Pardo. Jimmy Pardo, I only met because I was already a fan of his through podcasts and hearing him on podcasts. I knew he was a stand-up. And then I think I saw him do warm up at Conan, maybe because of Rob Kuttner. Rob Kuttner, thank you, by the way. Rob Kuttner got me backstage at Conan once and helped me. Did a little tour with my mom. My mom was so friggin' excited. But I met Jimmy because of Paul Provenza. Paul Provenza did the show. He brought the show up on Never Not Funny. Somebody mentioned to me that they found out about my show through Never Not Funny. And of course, that's when I subscribed to Never Not Funny. And I've been a subscriber ever since. I've never dropped off. I drop off a podcast real quick, especially if I start to hear one of the hosts turn into an absolute prick, or if the hosts start making way too much money from their podcast, and that's all you hear. It's happened. It's definitely happened. It's rare, but it's definitely happened. It's oh, okay. Well, your stuff is showing. I don't need to see that, listen to that. So, that's never happened with Jimmy Pardo. It's never happened with Never Not Funny. They're successful. They're very successful. But never once been dicks about it. Never once been dicks to me. And they've been nothing but kind to me. Everybody at that show, by the way. I just know Jimmy the best. And Jimmy is a friggin' delight. And I'm proud to have a baseball card of somebody who has been so kind to me. He's, I don't know. It would be very difficult to measure how kind that man is. But he's also brilliantly funny. I need all of his albums on vinyl. I kind of suck like that. It's been a while. I haven't bought comedy on vinyl in a little while because of this giant ass move I've had to do where I haven't bought anything really. James Urbaniak has been a guest on so many podcasts. I tried to get him on in this last round, but I'm pretty sure I dropped the ball in terms of scheduling, but we did get some interesting folks as well. He would have been in there, but I think I dropped the ball in scheduling. But James has been a delight. He also did one of my comedy albums. Sweetheart of a man. Cannot wait for the Venture Brothers movie that wraps everything up. Look out for that on HBO Max. Alex Salem, part of a drinking game. But I got to tell you, like, he's, full decade younger than me or so. And when I first brought him on, having him tell me more about the JFK, about the whole JFK period, made me realize, oh crap, I don't know anything about this first Family album. Alex, why don't you tell me everything? And it was great. And he's since done sort of the same thing on other episodes. Alex is just very smart and very funny. My buddy Alan Rickard, who again, if this was a podcast about a drinking game, I guess that's what would happen. But my buddy Alan Rickard has also done some great stuff. And the only person, it's just this weird, fortunate thing. Sorry, I keep hitting my desk. It's this weird, fortunate thing that there's one movie that came out in the last 11 years that is heavily about comedy albums. It's not entirely, but it's heavily about vinyl comedy albums, which is Dolomite Is My Name. And then my brilliant genius friend is in that movie, acting across from Eddie Murphy. And, so I get to interview him about that on this podcast. And I don't know, it's just, I don't believe in the whatever that's supposed to be. I don't believe in Kismet and all those things, but it is, or maybe Kismet's a thing you don't believe in, and whatever. I'm exhausted. The point is, I'm very happy that it happened. I feel very lucky and very fortunate, and it was one of those things. It was like a genuine spark of magic to me that it happened. And Alan is one of my best friends as well, and I feel like this show has helped with that. I think I already thanked them, but I'm going to re-thank them if I didn't. The family of Dick Davey. I didn't thank them, I don't think. But Sharon Hoffman, Lillian, his widow, his brother, everybody that has spoken to me about them. But the family has been so sweet and so supportive, and the record wouldn't be moving forward if it wasn't for them either. Sharon discovered these lost records, and it's insane. And they're just so sweet, and they're, again, a huge part of my life. I say huge, it's just one of those, like, we communicate every once in a while, but to have some people who will definitely return your emails and do it in a sweet way and tell you stuff about their personal lives and you do the same to them. I don't know. It's very nice. Again, these genuine friendships coming out of this show that means so much to me. To that end, Rusty Warren, who passed away not too long ago, sadly, and it was, kind of a crazy situation toward the end. And I wish I could have, been involved in any way to help alleviate the stressors that were involved. But, some good things are look like they're on the front, at least for keeping Rusty's history alive, which is hugely important. Good God, I loved Rusty. She was, and I met her for 3 hours. Those 3 hours of that podcast are just about all I knew her for. Although that's not true. I contacted her originally back in college, so like 2001 or so, and she was definitely down to interview. And that was back when I'm still scared to do them now, but I was way too scared to do an interview then. I'm way too scared. I had a teacher suggest that I interview her because I was writing a movie about a female comedian back in, the 30s, which she wasn't in the 30s, but still. Fair, she was a fair equivalent to that, and she was going to be bawdy, and I'm like, I'll interview her, and I never did. I regretted it for a long time until this podcast came along, and I was fortunate she was still around. It was great, she was on oxygen, but that lady had just so much friggin' energy, and she was just still kicking, and good God, what a delightful friggin' woman. I should also thank all the families who worked on the family albums. So I say worked on, who participated in the family albums series. Rand Hughley, who is such a sweet guy, who I actually later had dinner with in LA briefly, and we talked a bit about the podcast. Not a lot of things happen like that. Dawson and Harold families, both very sweet people. I'm still trying to make something happen with that material. In case anybody's curious, I don't know if I mentioned it on this show. I think I did, but we did lose Mr. Dawson. Belle Harrell, though, I do believe is still contactable. I'm still trying to make some contacts because I'd like to see something happen with those two crazy records and find out if there's anything left of their, insane 8-hour Pepsi fueled comedy recordings. These are things I very much need to hear. And I mean, I guess that's enough in terms of thanking people. I could thank the rest of my family because, hey, look at me, you made me interested in comedy. That's fun. That's nice. But and they did. But specifically for this show, Those are the people who I feel like are the most critical to thank. Here's the thing. I know I'm also forgetting people, and I do apologize. I was looking recently through a list of people who have actually, you know what? To that end, I should thank my buddy Jeremy Guskin and my buddy Mike Preister, both of whom were on early episodes to sort of help me fill it out, give me some info on stuff that I didn't know anything about. See, I knew I was forgetting people. And I'm just looking through the list of people I've interviewed who are just a lot of fun. Dan Backadall just had a lot to say. Andrew Bergman, who wrote Blazing Saddles, who wrote the original draft of Blazing Saddles and kept writing on it. Tim Amundsen. That's a man I wish I could have interviewed more than once, because that was one of my favorite interviews of all time. Kelly Carlin, talking about, I can't go through all of these. This is too many. There's a bajillion. Dan Pasternak and Paul Dooley. Dan Pasternak, obviously one of my other friends have made through the show. See, I told you I was going to forget people who were very important to me. It's because I didn't think this through, and I just did this at the last moment. But Dan Pasternak, hugely important, not just to me, but to the show. Sweetheart of a guy. He's helped out with so much with the show. My God, I know I'm going to forget somebody, and please understand if I forgot you, it's nothing to do with what a terrible person you are. It's more to do with what a terrible person I am, and that I just can't remember it right now. We've had a lot of really good episodes of late, too. So just, anybody who's been on has been a friggin' delight. So I don't know. I hope you've enjoyed this show as much as I have. I'm sorry for rambling on and on. This is just a very important thing to me, and so I don't know. At this point, the show is ending for a number of reasons. Anybody who knows me knows I'm a bit all over the place. I make movies, but filmmaking isn't my career. And the thing I'm arguably second best known for, if I'm known for anything at all, is hosting a podcast. And, I've wanted to do a TV show of it. I've been thinking about that for a long time and trying to pitch it. But this show isn't the size of other podcasts, which affects that thing's ability to get off the ground. Same with the book. I've started writing the book. I've started researching the book. And but that's something that I love enough that I'd need the financial freedom to actually fully research and write it, And interestingly, I get more like Patreon support for another show that I rarely ever do, once every few months, which is insane to me and very sweet of those people. And that's not to guilt anybody. It's just to say that this just is not a show that can support that, much as I would love it. I would love to do this full time. If I could do it full time, I'd probably come back to doing the podcast, or at least write the book, because I think that book could be something. We almost sold it once, by the way. It almost happened, but that's how things go. I've almost sold so many things. It's like, those are not stories. And a thing almost happening is not a story, but it is something you want to know. You want people to know. It's like, I put the effort in. I want you to know I definitely put the goddamn effort in, and it almost happened, just so you know. And again, that's not a story. But this is also one of the reasons I'm trying to concentrate on what I know best, which is actually making comedy. A lot of comedy nerds like myself want to know about how comedy ticks, about how comedians tick, and I did that. That's what I did with this show, and I feel like it's a pretty hefty catalog. I could have done more episodes, of course. Over almost 11 years, you'd expect me to have, roughly 5,300 or 5,300. That would have been a lot. 530 episodes or so, by the end of this. But that didn't happen. But that's because life happens, and I'm not, it's not that big a deal to have an episode every week if shit's going down. And I will be back every once in a while. I still want to do the history of Fire Sign with Phil Proctor and Taylor Jessen, the history of Python with Andre Jacquemin. There are a few other mini series like that I'd like to do, but they're not going to happen for months because I've got to get shit straightened out before that happens. And also mini episodes if I unbox. If somebody sends me a new comedy record, you're welcome to do that. The P.O. box is on the website on StolenDress.com and on comedyonvinyl.com, I think. Definitely on StolenDress.com. I like to review stuff. Even if it's yours too. By the way, people have sent me their records over the years. Like, it was like, hey, I think you might be interested in this. And every time that's happened, the answer is yes. Teen Comedy Party record being the one that stands out because it's crazy. Oh no, not just that one. Sorry, I can't say that one stands out. Two stand out. That, and of course, a gift you never asked for from friends you never had. It's a delight. But long story short is I need to go back to making stuff. That does include other podcasts. And that includes, a podcast I want to do about Detroiters. Well, I am doing it. It's called D2 Writers. It's at d2write.com. my news radio podcast, the Dan and Jay's Comedy Hour podcast. And the big thing with that podcast is while I do it every week, I do it with my best friend, Dan Gomiller. My dream, understandably, and I don't even know if it was as much a dream when this podcast started, because we had released an album. We'd done a bunch of Christmas albums. But it's now definitely my dream to get a full-length comedy LP of my own under Dan and Jay's Comedy Hour. I mean, we've been doing comedy together for 28 years now. This is fucking ridiculous. I know I'm only 41, but, we have been doing comedy since I was 13. And it would be this perfect culmination of everything we've done. And it wouldn't be our last record, but it would be a really nice capper for what we've done so far. If I can self-fund that, I will. But again, I know how hard it is to get people to spend money on an unknown commodity. That's been sort of this whole experience. And again, in no way do I want this to sound like a whine fest. It's just very much a reality, despite a lot of people having listened to this. So many people have listened to this show. If every download paid me blah, 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 I'd actually have an assload of money. If it was $1 for every download, I'd be doing okay. But it will happen one way or another. I don't know how long it's going to take. Right now I have a goal set, though, that the digital version of the album at least will be ready by the end of this year. And if not, then I guess early next year, or if somebody says, yeah, we want to release the vinyl of that, but please don't release it, then I will absolutely have to hold off. But I'm very happy with it. I'm very excited about it. This is just what I like to do. It's very traditional sketch comedy. It is not it's not as high concept's not the right word. It's not as high concept, which by the way actually means like very easy to understand. It's not as high concept as some sketch stuff, but it's definitely not as high-minded as a Fire Sign record. It's a solid in between, with some transitions here and there. I don't know. It's something it's on my mind a lot. So, and it is relevant to this podcast, and that will be an episode too. When that gets released, obviously we're doing an episode about that and the Dick Davey record and all these other things. But that's why I'm ending the show. And, I don't know. Is this what you wanted to hear? Is this what you wanted to hear me just like sound like a fucking idiot towards the end? With radio going on in the background very lightly. Had you forgotten about that? I hadn't. I think I've thanked everybody I need to thank. I think I've expressed what this show means to me. I mean, I recently just put, I have a Cricut here, like a craft cutter. And I recently put the phrase "have a good thing" across my record player. One of the ones that I think I reviewed on this show or one of the other shows. It's not a good record player, but it was given to me for free. So therefore I don't mind marring it by putting, it's not marring it. It's putting a very important thing to me. Have a good thing, which was completely pulled out of my ass at the end of the first episode, maybe second episode, maybe third. I don't remember, but I've said it at the end of every episode, I believe. I've at least endeavored to do same. So, it means something to me. It's going to stick with me. It will always be a part of me. And anybody who's listened to it and enjoyed it, and especially those who have reached out to me, you are a part of it and you're a part of me enjoying it. And, a decade plus of your life put into something is why you've just sat here recording for 37 minutes almost. It's because I can't shut up. Maybe this has to be its own episode that I put out right before the Weird Al episode. I was going to tag this on the end of it, but I don't know if anybody wants to listen to that. I'm not sure. But either way, long story short, thank you for sticking with the show, especially those of you who've been from the any of you, but if you've been there from the beginning, holy shit, thanks so much. Hats off to you. Don't know how you did it, because I barely could. Especially just re-listening to those first ones really makes you want to kind of stop doing what you're doing and rethink everything. Please, if you would, check out the Dick Davey record when it comes out. We will talk about it on this feed for sure. Don't have a date for that yet. A lot of moving parts have to come together. That's not a thing. There's a lot of moving parts, and also a lot of different things have to come together for that to work. And check out StolenDress.com. You'll see my other podcasts go up. Most of them are going to be mini-series, short form, because I'm not dedicating myself to another weekly unending podcast for a long time. Dan and Jay's Comedy Hour is going to be the one ongoing concern because there's a lot of improv that happens, and there's actually material on there that may one day make it onto a record as well. So I'm kind of hoping to do that with some of the material that comes out of that show. I'm making comedy every week, and that's always been my dream. It just takes a while to realize, oh shit, you're already living the dream. That's fun. That's nice. So check out StolenDress.com, danandjay.com. I sometimes update JasonKlom.com. That's KLAMM. You can check out my link tree, which is linktr.ee/Jason Klom. I try and update that regularly. And honestly, on a serious note, if you produce voiceover stuff, if you produce audiobooks, if you produce films, animation especially, animation's my absolute dream. I'm a working person like everybody else. This is something that I guess I've never really made entirely clear. Early on, it was because of, ego. I never made it clear that I don't do this for a living. I work for a living, and I haven't worked for quite some time. But the dream is voiceover, especially animation voiceover. I'm right now staring at a tie that belonged to Phil Hartman, who is my hero. And my dream is to be wearing that tie the first time I record something for an animation voiceover. I want to have that on and just I don't know, that's my dream. So if that's something you do, my voice has been in a lot of different stuff. I did a feature film last year, which I think is coming out soon. I've done a bunch of stuff, but never like a proper actual cartoon. And that's how I'd love to make a living, that and writing. Also, if you, I'm just gonna burn it all here, burn all this information. If you're an agent, I'm looking for agents representation as an actor and as a writer. I do have a voiceover representation, but it is one of those non-exclusive situations. So if you want me exclusively, you can have me. So I'm looking, I want to write, I want to do voiceover. Those are my two big things. So if you're out there and you're looking, if you're just looking to cast somebody in something, I would love to do it. Who doesn't want to live their dream? I tried for 18 years in LA and, sort of starting over while also still doing some stuff that I absolutely adore, which is podcasting. And I will come back to talking about comedy records here and there. This is a very weird thing. I'm sorry. I've apologized too much. You know what? I'm not sorry. Fuck it. This is my show. I love all the things I'm talking about. I'd appreciate your support on that other stuff. Because like I said, I need to make a living. And I would love to, if you would pay to help me get my first comedy LP made, let me know. Because, we'll find a way to make that happen, if I got to crowdfund it or whatever. There we are. Go to StolenDress.com, all that stuff. And thank you very much for being here. Thank you for listening to as many episodes as you've listened to. If this is your first one, I apologize. It's a weird place to start. Thank you guys for listening. And as always, you know what? Let's make this a little more inclusive. Thank you all for listening. And as always, have a good thing. Comedy on Vinyl is a production of StolenDress Entertainment. It is produced by Mike Worden and is hosted and edited by Jason Klom. Our theme song was composed and performed by Richard Levinson. You can email us at podcast@comedyonvinyl.com. You can also send snail mail to P.O. Box 725165, Berkeley, Michigan 48072. Subscribe to Comedy on Vinyl on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and anywhere else you can find podcasts. Give us a 5-star rating and write us a review. It helps. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Comedy on Vinyl, or find everything in one place at comedyonvinyl.com. A major portion of Comedy on Vinyl has been underwritten by Stand Up Records. Please visit standuprecords.com for all your comedy needs and tune in to the new Stand Up Records channel available on the Roku, where you can also find select episodes of this podcast. Visit StolenDress.com to listen to our other podcasts, watch videos, and imbibe freely of our multimedia content going back 15 plus years. StolenDress Entertainment.
Hey, it's my turn. Ah!
Dan, hey, it's Weird Al Yankovic, and I'm so sorry that you didn't want to talk with me on Zoom. This was going to be like the highlight of my day, and now I'm just going to go, I'm just going to go in the corner and just cry. So, thanks a lot, Dang. You ruined my day.
See, it's little things like that make life worth it.